Hello, my name's Fulton MacGregor and I'm the MSP for Coatbridge and Christen. I'd like to just start by thanking one of your teachers, Mr Mackay, for inviting me to speak to you today as part of the literacy event. I'd like to also say that I remember the first literacy event that Coatbridge High had. I think it was maybe about 2016, 2017, and was attended by John Swinney, MSP, as well as myself. And that, of course, was when John was the Education Secretary. So really good event, if I remember right, and it's good to see that it's still going on just now, because as I'm sure you're learning about, literacy is very, very important in all that we do. So I wanted just to speak a wee bit about myself and my own experiences of literacy in my job as an MSP. But first, as a wee bit of background, I am from Coatbridge myself, born and raised, and actually went to Coatbridge High. I have to say that I'm not a former pupil of the current school building, of course. I'm a wee bit older than that, and I went to the school when it was where Greenhill currently is now, but certainly a proud former Coatbridge High pupil. And reading's always been something that's been really, really important to me. Growing up, my favourite book, as everybody who knows me knows, was The Lord of the Rings, as well as The Hobbit, but The Lord of the Rings was my personal favourite. And I went on to love the movies as well. And I actually, I'm now reading The Lord of the Rings to my oldest son. And story time is something that's really important in our house. I've got 3 children, and I've read to them all from a very young age, and it's great that I'm currently getting the opportunity to read The Lord of the Rings again to my oldest boy, and he's loving it, which is great to see as well. And you know, it's important, I think, that we always promote literacy in all that we do. That's a wee bit about personal background for myself and my love of reading. I have to say that outside of story time just now, I don't get a lot of time to read novels, if you like, but a lot of my reading is connected to my work. So I'm a member of 2 committees in the Scottish Parliament, and I need to read copious amounts of paperwork before those each week to make sure that I'm up to date with what's going on, and that's the Criminal Justice Committee and the Equality and Human Rights Committee. So as you can probably tell even from their names, they're fairly large committees, and there's a lot of work goes through them. A lot of Scottish Parliament bills go through them, so there's a lot of reading connected to that as well. And of course, any legislation that goes through the Scottish Parliament comes with a lot of reading, understanding, and being able to bring you know, the various points together out of that. Of course, you'll probably imagine as well, part of my job involves speaking in the Scottish Parliament chamber. You know, sometimes something I'm very comfortable with, and other times I'm not. Just like anybody else in any other walk of life, it can be quite a challenging and daunting experience. But what makes it easier, I feel, is if you are well prepared and know your subject matter, and a lot of that is about researching and putting it down onto paper, onto written form, and going over your speech a couple of times. The difference in my speeches, I think, when I look back and I reflect, although I have to say I actually hate watching myself back in video, but when I do that, or my team do that, the difference between a well-prepared speech, where I've had time to go over it, and I know the subject matter, and I've actually maybe practiced the speech a couple of times, it really is night and day between one where I've maybe been asked to speak with about half an hour notice, and I've pulled together some points, and I maybe feel as if I'm, you know, all over the place within the chamber, the Parliament chamber, delivering that. So my advice would be is that literacy and it is so important in that respect of the oral presentation as well, and making sure that you are prepared to deliver a speech in whatever setting that might be. So even for today, for example, you'll see in front of me some notes that I will refer to in a wee bit. I've not actually done so yet, but that's important. It's important that they're here. It's important that I know that they're there, and it's important that they're accurate, and I can give you, as the young people of Coatbridge High, some accurate information. And I've got some quotes in that that are relevant to politics to go through at the end. Of course, another aspect of the job is writing to people. So that could be writing to government ministers, asking to get things changed for constituents, or things changed for the local area. It could be writing to constituents, it could be writing to organisations within the constituency, and very much how you present a letter is important as well, because sometimes as an MSP, as you can probably imagine, I need to go in quite tough looking for change, because something's really important. It needs to change for Coatbridge and Christen. We need better for our citizens and our young people. Other times it's maybe more important to approach something sensitively, because maybe you don't know the full information yet, you don't know the full facts, you've only heard one side of a story, so it's important to ask and probe and get a bit of information back. And other times it's important to try and find compromise, and this can all be done, of course, by meetings as well, but of course the written letter is still very, very important. They are mostly sent by email now, as you can probably imagine, and I'm sure that you'll all be well up to date with modern technology watching this, but they still are a letter at heart, and very much how you write that and how the skills you put into that are very, very important. And perhaps I'm fortunate and lucky enough, being an MSP now, to have had experience previously working as a social worker, where this was also a very important part of the job, writing out to people, writing out to organisations, and trying to get the best for the people that you work with. So overall, the day-to-day work as an MSP very much revolves around having a good understanding of literacy, of the written English, and how that actually then impacts on the job. I wanted also just to say a wee bit about some of the work that's at the Scottish Parliament, because I think that actually the Scottish Parliament itself reflects the importance of literacy in Scottish democracy, Scottish society and Scottish culture. And I don't know if you'll be able to get through at any point soon to the Scottish Parliament, but if you look at the Canongate Wall there, you will see lots of famous and well-loved pieces of poetry, proverbs and psalms that are there. They're in English, in Gaelic, and in Scots, and many of Scotland's leading writers are represented. And this is stuff that I've taken a note of to make sure that this information is right for you, and I've written it down here so that you've got, for example, there's an installation of the artist Shauna McMullen called Travelling the Distance, and this artwork is an installation of 100 handwritten sentences made of porcelain. The sentences were collected by the artist on a journey around Scotland to meet 99 women. Each of the 99 women was asked to write something about a woman they felt had made a significant contribution to life, culture or democracy in Scotland. And the artist asked each woman to refer her to another woman, which was the basis for the artist's journey until she reached the final woman. So this is something that's within our Parliament, and I think it's a really, really, really good example of how literacy is impacted across Scottish culture and democracy. I've gone on to say as well that the sentences are made from porcelain, a material often considered fragile, but which can have different strengths and qualities depending on how it is made. Each sentence depicts the handwriting of individual women who contributed to the sentence, and the artwork was funded by the Scottish Government and commissioned by Government and Scottish Parliament representatives to celebrate the contributions and role of women in Scotland. And I think that is just an absolutely fantastic example, which is why I wanted to make sure that I had it for you here today. I think that there's many examples that we could use. either in my day-to-day work as an MSP or in the work of the Parliament as a whole. If you look at all the, as I said earlier, all the legislation that comes through the Scottish Parliament, it all has to be written, drafted, redrafted, and a lot of the times as MSPs what we do is we amend legislation, so that has to be taken out. We have to look at the legislation and take out bits and amend it and bring forward different alternatives and different ways of wording things so that we can get the best legislation for the people of Scotland. So ultimately I would say that literacy, which is what this event is about, is so important in all of that. And it's great to see that Coatbridge High are promoting it, and that your teachers are encouraging you to think how important it is. And I know that you'll be hearing from a range of people in terms of how it impacts their jobs, but I don't think there's very many jobs or points in life that it doesn't impact in some way. So it's great to hear that you're getting that education. I do want to just finish very briefly on a quote that I think sums it up in relation to literacy and with politics, which I suppose is what you're asking me to reflect on. And it's by the author Italo Calvino, and I'll just end with this quote because I think it is quite powerful and makes the point that I think I've been trying to make throughout the video. And here it is. Literature is necessary to politics, above all when it gives a voice to the one who doesn't have a voice, when it gives a name to the one who doesn't have a name, and especially to all that political language excludes or tends to exclude. Literature is like an ear that can hear more than politics. Literature is like an eye that can perceive beyond the chromatic scale to which politics is sensitive. End quote. And I think that does sum it up really, really well. I want to thank your teachers again, particularly Mr Mackay, for inviting me to do this. I want to wish you well in this event and your future studies for the year. I know that young people, including yourselves, have had a really, really tough last 19-20 months. You have had to sacrifice so much for everybody, and I think now as we build back after this pandemic, it is really important that you are put first and foremost in centre of that. As your MSP in Coatbridge and Christ, and I'll certainly be doing all I can to promote that. And I want to wish you well with your studies, and hopefully I'll be able to come in and see you all in person soon as restrictions continue to ease. Thanks again.